Research UK, I used to download all of their charities' accounts. And I was asked by the Women's Institute to go and speak at a few. And then they found my video on Cancer Research UK, and I was bored. So they just collect your money, and Cancer Research UK buy properties with it, and they rent them out, big ones. And breast cancer now are not putting any money into what causes cancer. Nothing. They don't want to. If you think 1 in 7 women will get breast cancer, I know men get it as well, and 1 in 3 will get prostate cancer. And no one tells any man when he's got prostate cancer, you need zinc. They just tell you, no, you need to come and take this drug, which is going to make your arms spindly, you're going to grow man boobs, and your hair will fall out, but don't worry about it. So let's go from the head down. So let's start at the brain. And our brain is the most fantastic organ. It's incredible. It's the consistency of soft butter. Soft butter, enclosed in a hard, bony shell. And yet we let our children go out and play rugby and football. Isn't that mental? It's the only organ in the body that when something goes wrong in it, nobody scans you, do they? Nobody does an X-ray. They don't do any of that. What they do is they sit a psychiatrist in the corner and you tell him how you're feeling and he comes up with a diagnosis. It's quite incredible. But if you go and look at the brain, you'll see anomalies on it. So, dementia, Alzheimer's, the symptoms of it, you don't know you've got it. And it started 30 to 50 years prior. 30 to 50 years. If you go to bed every night for 10 days and only sleep 6 hours, you lose 50% of your cognitive function. 50%. So it's really important that you look after your brain. Now we've got something really clever that protects our brain. It's called the blood-brain barrier. So we have all our blood in our entire body goes to our liver every 3 minutes. Every 3 minutes. Hello, yes?
It goes to your mind. It goes to your mind.
I think we'll have questions afterwards.
Yeah, otherwise we'll be here. Yeah.
It goes to your mind. That's, what do you say?
The lymphatic system.
Yeah.
And the cerebral spinal fluid.
What you need is what we have to need. 6 hours when you have questions afterwards.
I'm going to probably answer what you're going to say, sir. I'll answer what you're going to say. So when we sleep, we have our lymphatic system in our body cleans our body. In the brain, we have the glymphatic system. We have the glymphatic system, and the glymphatic system cleans the brain. So we have to be asleep, in deep sleep, for that glymphatic system to clean the brain. The blood-brain barrier stops toxins from reaching the brain. When our blood sugar is low... Where's our friend gone? When our blood sugar is low, that blood-brain barrier can open. When we've got a high temperature, that blood-brain barrier can open. There's something else that's very clever at opening our blood-brain barrier, and it's 2.45 to 5.8 gigahertz. That's your Wi-Fi. Isn't that incredible that that exact frequency opens your blood-brain barrier? Now, when you then mix glyphosate, which is in the water table, that people are buying and spraying on the foods, and actually a lot of the beans, pulses, lentils that come out of India are absolutely soaked, because that's where a lot of them are imported from, soaked in glyphosate. When you then mix that with aluminium, which is in the vaccines, and they're spraying it on us, that makes 6 new compounds in the gut. So then when you bring in the Wi-Fi and the polysorbital 80 that's in the vaccines, and these new bioengineering, that takes it straight up to the brain, along with the fluoride, and it calcifies the pineal gland. And you need that for making... For a lot of the hormones for puberty, they don't even know what it really does, but they know about melatonin. So then we get onto our hair. So I can see a few grey hairs in here. Your hair should stay quite dark if you're having lots and lots of minerals that are in your green leafy vegetables. And that's the reason why you should be juicing and using super greens. And this is why you see more and more and more people with grey hair, actually, there's a saying, isn't there? When you've got a bald head, it's when your hair's gone inside and there's no brain to stop it going deep. So our eyes. So if we get onto, you know, when we talk. I'm going to go back to the brain in a little while, but I'm going to go through this quicker. Our eyes. And what was interesting in the Gulf War, well, I'm not even going to call it a war. Over 2 million non-combatants murdered, and Tony Blair's still knocking around. But what the guys said in the military, they would be pointing with their night vision glasses on, and there would be a shepherd in the yonder distance with no goggles on, pointing back at them, because they could see. So what do we do now? We're looking down at our phones, and we've got all our kids in school now. They don't have a blackboard anymore, so that you're looking down, looking up, looking down, looking up. Because when you do that, you're exercising your eye muscles. By the time you're 12-ish, your eye muscles are set. Now our kids are all in school with laptops, and they're not looking up and down. So they're losing that long vision. So what I would say to everybody every single day is focus on something near and then keep looking up, focus on something far. Near, far, and exercise those eye muscles. That's the best thing you could do. And don't wear your glasses, because the more you wear them, the more you're going to want to wear them. Obviously, if your eyesight's rubbish, don't be driving without them, because the busies will get you. So the other thing is, it's important to exercise because it increases blood flow. I'm going to go back to eyes and brain when I talk about sugar. So our mouth, really important, our mouth, of course it is. Inside our mouth we have our teeth. When we're first born, we don't really have teeth. And then our milk teeth come in, and that's exactly what they are. That baby shouldn't have anything other than milk. You shouldn't give that baby anything else until those premolar teeth are in. Those premolar teeth, once they're in, the mouth starts to secrete ptyalin for breaking down starch and breaking down fat to start it in the mouth. So what do the midwives tell the ladies? They do it with the Asian ladies as well, the Indian ladies. I worked at NHS Direct in Nottingham. When baby's not sleeping, they say, oh, it's hungry. Give baby some baby rice. That's a grain. It's a starch. Give baby some porridge. They can't digest it. What does your baby do? Well, it hasn't got those teeth. You put the spoon in, don't you? And it goes, meh. It keeps doing it. What do? We scoop it up and shove it back in. Because the madwives have told us we should be giving the babies, we should be giving them that. We shouldn't. They should be having just milk, mum's milk. It's made for a baby. I'm going to go back to that. So our teeth are 2.5 times stronger than our bones. So what happens? We get to late primary school, early teens, and our teeth start breaking, and we go and get them filled, don't we? If we're really unfortunate, somebody puts mercury in our mouths, amalgam, so every time you lick it, you get mercury to the brain. Who knows the saying, mad as a hatter? They used to stiffen the hats, the mariners, with mercury fumes, and they went mad. That's where the saying comes from, mad as a hatter. So, you shouldn't be giving your baby anything. And interestingly, come on, let's see it. Who drinks Coca-Cola? Coca-Cola is good for cleaning your toilet. Only 2 people know the ingredients of Coca-Cola, and they're not allowed to travel on the same flight. The reason they put the sugar in is to hide the taste of salt. They put masses of salt in it, and they put caffeine in it to make you thirsty and to make you pee more, so you drink more. And it's got phosphoric acid in it that degrades down your teeth. There's kids in Nottingham, and I remember where the parents were giving them a bottle with Coke in, and Greg's the baker's shot, and the standing joke was all the kids starved because they didn't get their sausage roll for breakfast. Probably get into trouble for saying that. But anyway, so then they brought in fluoride, and they told all of us that fluoride's good for our teeth. Fluoride is a byproduct of the aluminium industry. When you add fluoride into the water and then you mix it with plastic, which is like in your tea bags, it expresses 138 genes that shouldn't be expressed. You get melanoma, generally, where you don't even get the sun on the torso, and the upper limbs. The highest rate of melanoma in the Northern Hemisphere was in Ireland. And the highest rate in the southern hemisphere was in New Zealand. And what do the two things have in common? They both had fluoride in the water, and they were both massive tea drinkers. Natural fluoride will concentrate in the tea leaves, naturally. So then you're mixing it with the plastic in the bag and the fluoride water, and boom. It drops the baby's IQ. It causes fluorosis of the skeleton. It is the worst thing. It affects the brain. It causes cancer. It causes all problems with the eyesight, everything. But what's really horrific is, in places with high concentrations of fluoride, you get a higher incidence of Down syndrome children. Now that's very significant now, because that's classed as terminal, and they're disabled. And I can tell you 2 Down syndrome young women that were murdered using benzodiazepines and opioids in 2020. So when you start to get older and your skeleton starts to break down, you get poisoned all over again, because all that fluoride that's caused fluorosis of your skeleton gets liberated back in your blood. You go to your dentist. What do we do with our children? Fluoride toothpaste, and you start brushing their teeth with it. Fluoride toothpaste from a young age. Herman P. Schwann was a member of the Third Reich, and his job, he was a scientist, was to look at how radiation affected blood and water. They had other scientists that were looking at fluoride, and they put fluoride in the water there. You had Goebbels, who was looking at, he was fascinated by 528 hertz. 528 hertz, bees hum at 528 hertz. Chlorophyll is at 528 hertz. And 528 hertz perfectly matches the middle of the electromagnetic colour spectrum. J.D. Rockefeller in 1939 changed the international tuning to A440, which is the devil's interval. This is all by design. How does that affect us? Because we are mostly water. And I think it's 93% of the function of our DNA is light and sound transmission and reception. Our proteins, our enzymes, our DNA, covered with layers of water. This is all linked. This is not by chance. This is a very long, thought out plan. So let's move down, and we'll go back to the mouth afterward. We come to the thyroid gland. It's my favourite system, the endocrine system, the thyroid gland. The biggest promoter of disease in the human body is lack of iodine. Now, in the Great Lakes, they noticed that boys and girls were getting goiter where the thyroid gland swells. And what they noticed was when those girls hit puberty, it was 10 times the amount of girls got goiter as boys. Why? Because the breasts compete for the iodine and will pull it from the thyroid gland. Lack of iodine in the thyroid causes inflammation, cysts, nodules, cancer. Lack of iodine in the breasts, inflammation, tenderness, cysts, nodules, cancer. New England Medical Journal did a study with 800 cohort proving that. But Cancer Research UK tell you no, it doesn't. It's not a precursor to fibrocystic breast disease. Yes, it is. Lack of iodine in the testes, lack of iodine in all the glands is going to cause dis-ease. What causes that iodine to go? Fluoride, chlorine and bromine, the heavy halogens. Well, our bromine's in all our fire retardants, that lovely new car smell. You know, when you get a new car, you get and you go, smells lovely. It smells like death to me. And then you've got your chlorine in the water and fluoride. And they're going to displace the iodine from your thyroid gland, and then your thyroid won't function properly, which is what? Hypothyroid disease. So when women come to see me as patients, they're getting overweight, they're tired, they've lost their sex drive, they're a little bit depressed, they feel their voice is a bit hoarse, they're losing their hair, they've lost 1/3 of their eyebrow, the outer canthus of their eyebrow, their feet hurt when they get out of bed. Actually, this is men as well. And incidentally, fellas, you really don't want to be having any of that fluoride. It's going to affect, as is what we're going to talk about in a bit, it's going to affect your erections. Erectile dysfunction, 50% of men over 50. 70% of men over 70. Men should be siring children until they roll up on their last day. That's the way it's meant to be. So that iodine, they're putting this fluoride in the toothpaste and we're giving it to our children. The pregnant woman, the most important year of a child's life is the year before it's conceived. So imagine you're already deficient in iodine and you're getting pregnant. And you need that iodine for all the central nervous system, 40% of women in the UK are on thyroxine. I'm sure there's women in here that have got low functioning thyroid, yep. Always. Low functioning thyroid, and that goes hand in hand with breast cancer and prostate cancer. And Dr. Max Gerson at Autopsy, all his patients with cancer lacked iodine in the thyroid gland. Has anyone ever had a doctor tell them to eat iodine? No. So when we go on to the next thing is sugar. And if we look at what actually happens in our bodies, when we eat food, it's converted into glucose by the body to be used as energy or stored as fat. That's exactly what it does. So we eat it up, and then our pancreas secretes insulin, which is the key to let it into the cell. And it goes into the cell, and it goes through pathways it goes through 20-step pathway, and it makes a couple of units of energy, but then goes through an 8-step pathway and makes 36 units of energy. How does a shorter pathway make more energy? You bring in oxygen. Sugar in the presence of oxygen generates energy, ATP. That's what we are. That's when we breathe, when we eat. Energy. Breathe, eat, energy. So what happens is we store that in our cells, we store it in our muscles, and we store it in our liver, and we also ship it out, don't we, when we eat too much and we start to get fat. Fat bellies, fat legs, fat arms. Actually, if you look outside, fat, really fat. Fat, fat, fat. And then what happens is the pancreas goes, stop it. I'm tired. Stop secreting. No, no, no. Enough, enough, enough. We've got insulin resistance. Now we've got all that sugar still going around in our blood, haven't we? All that sugar still going around. And what it does is it binds to our protein that we've eaten, and it becomes sticky, and it starts to clog up our blood vessels. And we're going to go back to that in a minute. But they want you to eat that white sugar. It's like crack cocaine. It's addictive, it's poisonous, and we shouldn't be having it. And what can actually happen? The diabetics, is anyone in here diabetic? Type 2, type 1? I can sort you out in a minute, love. Absolutely, that's totally reversible. The diabetic nurses are funded by the companies that make the insulin. So they want you on as much insulin as possible, or they want you on tablets, glibenclamide. They don't tell you, well actually, don't do this. I bet your diabetic nurse tells you only eat wholemeal bread. And that's even more sugar in it. I'm not talking about white sugar, it's from hybridized wheat. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, which is even higher sugar, amylopectin A. Potatoes and bananas are amylopectin B, and your legumes, amylopectin C. But they tell you eat wholemeal bread because they want you to have as much of that product as possible. So what happens is it just becomes worse and worse till you can no longer, your pancreas just gives up the ghost, doesn't it? And this is why you then start to see diabetics getting what? They get dementia. Why? Because their blood vessels get furred up with the sugar binding to the protein. Now, if that's in the little blood vessels, what do you get? Dementia. And that's what you see diabetics get. What if it's in the little blood vessels that supply the eyes? You start to see eye disease. They start to lose their sight. What about the small blood vessels in the kidneys? Then they start to get high blood pressure. They start to have masses of problems. Do you see? Make you sick, keep you sick. So if we go on to our digestive tract, so we've been in the mouth, haven't we? We've put our fat in our mouth, we've put our starch in our mouth, which is our carbohydrates. So everybody's eating bread. Everybody goes to the supermarket, there's an entire aisle devoted to cereal. Weetabix, all bran, I don't know, monster stuff, chocolate, puffs, whatever. All garbage, 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 garbage. And you've got your muffins, croissants, more garbage. And so you eat that. It sounds familiar. I don't know. So you eat that, so you're chewing your food and it's starting to digest that in your mouth and your fat. And they tell you that fat's fattening, don't they? Got to go low fat. Low fat, low fat. And everybody kept eating low fat, but everyone's got fatter and diabetes has exploded and cancer and everything else because they're lying. They just want you on the drugs. It's not called Food and Drug Administration by mistake. So then you eat that food, it goes down your food pipe, And in order for that food pipe to close the muscle, the cardiac sphincter, your stomach's got to be acidic enough, 1.5 to 3.5. And it's got to relax to close over that hole. So the food goes in, and now the fat and the starch switches off, and your stomach acid starts to digest your protein. And people get reflux, don't they? Is anyone in here on omeprazole? They go, oh, I've got reflux. The doctor goes, you've got too much acid. I'll give you a drug to take that acid away. Now you're in big trouble. Because now your stomach isn't in acid enough to do what? To digest those foods, to extract the nutrients. So now you've got food in your stomach that's not really digested enough, so it goes through the duodenum, and your liver's, got your bile and your gallbladder, and it enters into your intestine, where that's where the nutrients get extracted to go into your blood. The life is in the blood. I don't know what it is, but in Christian faith, the life is in the blood. Then it goes into your ascending colon, and you've got your appendix. What do they tell us about the appendix? Oh, it's a useless bit of skin. It's not. It secretes antibacterial and lubricant. Because when that food comes out your stomach, if you've not got enough stomach acid and it's full of bacteria, it's going to make you ill. It goes into your colon, then your colon has to absorb the water, keep absorbing the water, and then, hey presto, it comes out the other end as a log. And if you're lucky. And that's it, we all get a bit like, oh, I can't talk about that. And then we get people having piles. We don't want to talk about those nasty little things, do we? Women know about piles, and the doctor goes, oh yeah, it's because you're straining. Nobody actually tells you, no, it's your liver. It's the reason you've got the piles is your liver. And actually, if you raise the feet, us Brits, we sit on a toilet in the bathroom, the throne. We take our phones in with us. Our one eye genie, we sit on the phone texting, talking to our mates, don't we, while we're sitting in the throne. And then we laugh at those in the Middle East and the Far East with the holes in the feet. Get them up. Get the phone out there. So anyway, we've got all these patients now on antacids. They can't extract their nutrients. So what happens? They get osteoporosis, don't they? Because they can't extract the calcium from their foods, which binds to the vitamin D3. We're told, don't go out in the midday sun. When your shadow is short, the sun shines on your skin and it converts the cholesterol into vitamin D3. It's actually a hormone. Every cell in your body has a vitamin D3 receptor. You need the electrical field of the sun to make the fluid in your cell in the mitochondria, which is nutrition for your immune cells, and that's the life force in your cell. In a minute. 5 minutes, you can all go to the loo. I'll get through this quick. So what you have to do is you're now taking away the acid. They can't extract the nutrients. The calcium won't bind to the D3. So now they've got osteoporosis, brittle bones. They tell you it's normal because you're old. No, it's not. It's not normal. And they tell you to slap sunscreen on and stay out of the sun, don't they? And for all of you gentlemen that your heritage isn't from, your heritage is near the equator, it's very important that you get out in the sunshine and get as much of your clothing off as possible and soak it up. No one cares. Everybody only looks for 2 minutes. So I'll just finish on a couple of other bits. So the ovaries. If we don't have enough iodine in our ovaries, they're not going to function that delicate balance of an egg every month. So we're exposed to all these synthetic hormones where pesticides, herbicides, fungicides are synthetic estrogens. Then everything with an aroma, your aftershave, your deodorant, your wash fluid, your laundry softener, all of these things that you can smell, plug-in air fresheners, all of these things are carcinogenic, but they also push up your estrogen level for men as well, and that in turn hijacks the binding agent that your thyroid needs. So now your thyroid can't function properly. I've never seen a thyroid walk into the doctors on its own. I've never seen a set of teeth go into the dentist on their own. I've never seen a liver pick you up and say, I'm a bit congested. They're generally attached to the rest of your body. So why we have an ologist for this and an ologist for that, I don't know, because everything's connected, and when one thing goes down, everything goes down. So moving on to your testes, fellas. Your testes, zinc is stored in the testes and the prostate, and there's 2.7 billion people in the world that are zinc deficient. The glyphosate chelates the zinc so the plants can't take it up. And zinc stops your good testosterone being converted into the bad one that causes prostate cancer. It inhibits that enzyme. So every man in here should be eating pumpkin seeds, zinc-rich foods, and supplementing with zinc. For anybody in here that's doing bodybuilding and they're taking anabolic steroids, you're going to stop your body from being able to secrete its own testosterone, and you're going to get problems with your heart, your kidneys, your brain, your moods, everything. And you really need to think about that if you're doing all of that, to pump your body up thinking you look good right now down the gym with your tats. And then later you've got, micro testicles like marbles, and you can't get an erection, and your body's no longer secreting. I see you laughing. Are you using those, sir? So you're no longer secreting your own testosterone. So my advice to anyone who's doing that is you don't need to. You go through the history museums in London and you see all the old sculptures of these sportsmen. They didn't have any of that then. They had a clean diet and they had rippling muscles. And I can assure you, as a young man, you don't want to have erectile dysfunction and microtestes. And let me tell you, as a woman, we don't want it either. Just saying. So your kidneys, if you're bombarding your body with loads of animal protein, which is not natural. We would kill something and probably eat it for a few days, and the rest of the time we would eat the herbs, the lentils, the pulses, the grains. We wouldn't have a plate with half a cow on it. And yet people do now, and then they have their potatoes, their chips, their eggs. Your body has to break the amine. In order to use protein, it has to break it down so it can, like a foreign word, so that it can metabolize it. The amine portion can't be broken down to produce this energy or stored as fat, so it has to be excreted by the kidneys as urea and creatinine. So your kidneys have to work really hard. Then your heart has to work hard. So if you're eating loads of animal protein and loads of eggs, and if you're eating that horrible whey protein, I see loads of autoimmune diseases with people that have these whey protein powders. If you're doing that, then your kidneys are working harder, your heart harder, you're hanging on to sodium now and letting go of potassium. Now your cells become waterlogged, so sugar in the presence of oxygen is not going to happen. So you're going to get tired. The cell won't be relying on oxygen, so now what happens? The DNA gets damaged. If your immunity is not working well because you're deficient in vitamins, minerals and enzymes, you're not going to be able to mend that DNA or cause that cell to die. So that cell's going to divide. It's now a mutation. It's going to keep on dividing. What have you got? A palpable, detectable tumour. Now do you see? Do you see how this all happens? I love the human body. Wheat, we talked about hybridised wheat. In 1969, an agronomist came along and said, I've got a great idea to feed the world. We're going to have wheat that grows this big with a big yield, and it's not going to fall over because it's not as tall, so the mice won't get it and the rats. And we're going to feed everybody. That hybridised wheat is going to give you holes in your gut, and it's going to give you the highest blood sugar. It's the worst thing you can eat. So everything you buy in that supermarket is hybridised wheat, unless you're eating spelt or kamut and it's organic. I mean, it's just really high sugar, and that should frighten a sandwich right out your hand. The dairy, we see now A1 milk. There is an explosion of multiple sclerosis and diabetes type 1 in India, and they don't care. Because what they've done is robbed the country of the big buffalo cows, and they've pushed in the black and white Frisian cows, which is the A1 milk. What they then do is all your formula milk is A1 milk. Now you're giving all these babies the vaccines, and they're now getting shrapnel in their gut, little holes. Then you've got the madwives telling them, give your baby some baby rice, which they can't digest, it's going to knock them out. Then you give them the formula milk, and this is actually what they did years ago. You had this push to get the Indian women giving their babies formula milk, and they were making it with just regular water. And all these babies ended up getting really sick, and they all went to the kiosks and got Imodium, and the babies all died of paralytic ileus. They didn't care as long as they sold them the formula milk. Now that formula milk, number 67 in the amino acid chain, is called beta-casomorphin. it turns into a morphine derivative in the body. So if you've got holes in that baby's gut on the vaccines and the hybridized wheat, and then you shove a bottle of this A1 milk in its mouth, where's that going to go? Because we've got Wi-Fi in our house, haven't we? And the life is in the blood. It's going to go to the brain, and it's going to depress the respiratory centre. What do we see in vaccinated bottle-fed babies more prevalent? Cot death. Cot death. They've actually got studies on that from the 70s, so they know that it causes it, but they don't care. And like I say, multiple sclerosis, it's interesting that Epstein-Barr virus, it goes and sits in the myelin sheath, the beta cells, and it sits in the thyroid in the beta cells. And when that virus is active, it starts to destroy it. In one study for multiple sclerosis, when they looked at the brain tissue of those that had died, it tested 100% in every patient for Epstein-Barr virus. So is it Epstein-Barr virus or is it MS? And they put Epstein-Barr virus in vaccines. Isn't that nice of them? Make you sick, keep you sick. So your anti-inflammatories, we'll just quickly go through, I'm nearly finished, quickly go through. Who's taking anti-inflammatories? Anybody here? Anybody got arthritis? Come on, we're all friends. So what they do is they put you onto anti-inflammatories, and even the ones that you buy over the counter. If you take anti-inflammatories long term, you've got a 400% chance increase of being admitted to hospital. And what that anti-inflammatory does is it blocks a thing called the COX-1, COX-2 pathway. Isn't it just genius when they can block chemicals in your body? Because the Lord was so stupid, clearly, that he made a mistake when he created us in his image. So that gets blocked, so now you can't make certain prostaglandins. And one of those, it affects so many different processes in your body, but one of those that you need is to break down your bones. So your eye cells, renewed every 2 or 3 days, your cells in your digestive tract, every 3 to 5 days, your respiratory tract. We actually rebuild our entire bodies. But our bones remodel all the time. We build an entire new skeleton. If you're taking anti-inflammatories, it blocks your osteoclasts. They don't work. They're the ones that break your bone down, and then that cement stimulates your osteoblasts to build it up. Those anti-inflammatories block that from working, those osteoclasts. So imagine you've got some tarmac with some holes in it, and instead of digging those holes out first, you just come along and put some new tarmac over the top. You're going to have a very brittle road, aren't you? That's what happens with you, with your osteoporosis. So you've got your osteoporosis because they're giving you a omeprazole, because you've got stomach acid, because you eat your dinner late, or because your stomach's not acidic enough, because your thyroid function's gone down. Because your thyroid function affects how much stomach acid you've got. High blood pressure. You've got high blood pressure. So what they tell you is it's your cholesterol. Who's heard that? Your cholesterol's high. Your cholesterol, if you imagine your blood vessels like this, your low density lipoprotein, oh, that's your bad cholesterol, they tell you. The Lord didn't make anything bad in our bodies. That low density lipoprotein is going to go wherever you've got holes in your blood vessels. If you're smoking cigarettes, you get about 4,000 chemicals that make holes in your blood vessels. Every chemical that you're exposed to will make holes in your blood vessels. So your low density lipoprotein is going to go there to seal it off. Now your brain loves fat, because I've told you, it's made of fat. In fact, all of your cells, the membranes on your cells are made of the fat, the oils that you eat, half of them and half protein, except for your brain, which is 70% fat. Your liver, 80% of your cholesterol comes from sugar, only 20% is made from your fat. So it's not the butter on your toast that's making you fat and giving you high cholesterol. It's the bread underneath, the carb, that's the sugar, because it gets broken down into sugar. So what they tell you then is your atherosclerosis is because of your cholesterol. It's not. It's your sugar, excess sugar, binding to protein, making your blood sticky and furring up your arteries. That cholesterol is just there to repair holes. So they give you what? They give you a cholesterol-lowering drug, don't they? A statin. It's the only drug you can throw it in the bin immediately. It's the only drug you don't need to wean off. So that statin, what does it do? It blocks that fat. Isn't it great when they do something to block chemicals? What could possibly go wrong? It also destroys CoQ10, the heart protective enzyme. So what do we notice about people that are on long-term statins? They get dementia, they get Alzheimer's, they get muscle weakness. Remember, your heart is a muscle. All your muscles in your body become weak, and they get breast cancer from taking that statin. And then what happens? They get into real problems, and they give them high blood pressure tablets, and then they've got more of this stomach acid problem. They give them more omeprazole. Then they start to get osteoporosis because they're not absorbing their calcium, so they give them calcium tablets, don't they? Those calcium tablets do not end up in your bones, in your teeth. They end up in your soft tissue, in your blood vessels, as bony spurs. And if that's on your spine, you're in real problems. Then they start to affect the sinoatrial node of your heart, where the electrical impulse comes from. Now you need a pacemaker. Do you see? As soon as you start on those statins way back yonder, you're a customer for life, but not a long life. There's another little caveat with your sugar. Every molecule of sugar that you eat, that white horrible stuff that's like crack cocaine, you're going to use up 56 molecules of magnesium. How do you know you're suffering from low magnesium in the body? Because magnesium makes everything relax. You get cramp, you get angina. Anywhere where you've got a muscle spasm, it's lack of magnesium. Do they tell any patient that gets angina to take a gram of magnesium and see how it goes? No, they don't tell you that. They go, now I'll put you on this drug and this drug and this drug. But no one says you need magnesium, magnesium-rich foods. And everybody sitting here, you shouldn't be thinking, oh, I'll take a supplement and I'll carry on eating my garbage. That won't cut it. It's a supplement. 90% of them are synthetic. That's why I don't push them. Your food should come from your diet. All of your nutrients should be nutrient-dense foods. Organic produce is grown in over 42 minerals. Your one that's grown that has the red tractor on it in the UK so it can go to market, your standard produce, is only grown in potassium, phosphorus and nitrogen. They spray it 10 times more than they used to 5 years ago, I think it is. They spray it even to make it fall to save the blades on the harvesting equipment. So they spray it so much so now that not even the weeds will grow. And they rely on the fertilizer to make the food grow. That's the food that you're eating. So it's covered in pesticide, herbicide, fungicide. The agronomist that comes out and measures the amount on the plants, his job is funded by the pharmaceutical companies that make the pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. There are synthetic estrogens that are going to hijack your thyroid gland. Are you seeing it all now? It all goes round. So we've talked about your liver. All your blood goes through your liver every 3 minutes. The entire circulation of your body. It's the only organ in your body that regenerates. Cancer cannot get a grip of you if your liver is functioning properly. And you don't show any signs of liver problems till you're down to your last third. Guard your liver. Remove the burden. Take away all of your, cleaning products. You can use white vinegar. Try and limit the exposure. And I always say for women, I love makeup. If you're wearing 60% of the lipsticks on the American market contain lead, it's a neurotoxin. It's accumulative in the brain, and men go, oh, well, I don't wear it, although a lot of them do now, don't they? All that, whatever. If you're a man or a woman, don't get me started on that. But actually, fellas, you are getting it because you're kissing your ladies if you're lucky. So you're eating it as well. So you don't get out of it. So that's an absolute reason to buy a clean makeup brand. And if you've not got one, actually I got approached by the Modi brothers and they wanted me to work with them to make clean makeup, and they gave me a massive suitcase full of it all. But it's not that clean, but they're working on it. So they like me. And they were trying to get me not to speak here, but the Modis like me. So asthma, again, fluoride. Fluoride causes asthma. Zinc. Your mast cells in your respiratory tract require zinc. Remember what I said? 2.7 billion people in the world are zinc deficient. So all of this is connected. So we should all be thinking about what are we going to feed our families on. If we've got young daughters, we should be educating them now, because what's the most important year of a child's life? The year before it's conceived. Are You listening, Freddie? Just in case you're planning on having some. So as you can see, your body, if you take away all the toxins, which you can do, and then you flood your body with nutrient-dense foods, and you don't drink tap water, the water in the UK is disgusting. You can get a distiller, you can get a zero water cup for your kids. In London, the filters only last about 8 weeks, but they can fill that out of the toilet if they wanted. That will filter the water, so if they're ever anywhere or you're going to the gym, you've always got clean water. You can use non-fluoride toothpaste. If you can't afford toothpaste, use coconut oil. It's antibacterial, antimicrobial. If you've got gum recession, you mix a little bit, grind some cloves, sesame oil, put it in your mouth, swill it around your mouth for 5 minutes, then mix a little bit of turmeric powder with a bit of water afterwards, coat your teeth with it for a few more minutes, spit it out, go to bed. That's a teeth whitener, and it also stops your gums from receding. So these things can all be done. People say to me, oh, I've got cataracts. What can I do for it? Well, the first thing you can do is stop eating all the garbage that gave you the cataracts in the first place. Then you can get castor oil. You can put a drop on each eyelid, massage it down the eyelid into the lash line in the morning and in the evening. If you've had your cataract for years, it's going to take a bit of a while to go, but that will dissolve a cataract. If you've got a sore throat, you can get a whole bulb of garlic if you're unwell. Eat it on a slice of toast, raw garlic. Garlic is also a blood thinner. You can slice garlic up and put a little bit of gauze swab, put it on the sole of your foot, put your sock on. You can do it with slices of onion. You'll start to taste onion very quickly, even though it's on the soles of your feet. If you've got a cough, you slice onion up, a little bit of honey, a little bit of onion, so you can see the rings, in a jar. Then you fill it with some water, not tap water, pop it in the fridge for 24 hours, then take the onion out, there's your cough syrup. And that works. I've done this with so many people. Everything we need is already here. So what we have to do is take away every offending thing, and our bodies will naturally heal ourselves. The gentleman who says he's type 2 diabetic, if he took all of the wheat and out of his diet, didn't have any pasta or any bread, just cut the rice right back for now, and have only maybe once a week in a small amount, just get greens and some nice alkaline meat, some chicken, some turkey, and did that 3 meals, and then maybe 2, got it down, that type 2 diabetes would leave, and the body begins to heal. All your blood vessels that are furred up with your protein and your sugar and your sticky blood, if you take all that away and you go back to a natural diet, your body will heal it. And all the herbs are there as well. There's so many herbs out there that are fantastic. And what the pharmaceutical company does is it takes a natural compound, isolates what is active in it, makes a synthetic version, and then puts a patent on it, which has got loads of side effects, and then they give it to you as a drug. And a classic example of that was in the Second World War, the Japanese troops, their meals were really flavoursome when they were taken prisoner. And what they had sprinkled on their food was sea kombu or sea tangle. And so what they did was they took that and they isolated the active compound in it. One of the scientists was called Suzuki, and it was glutamate. So they made a synthetic version called monosodium glutamate, which killed all the spider monkeys in the trials, blinded all the mice, but they put it in everything, even in baby food. And as long as it's not got 70% or a little bit more in the food, they don't even have to tell you. So all your Schwartz spices, they're full of it. And what people say is, oh, I've got a bit of a full head, a bit of a foggy brain. It's a bit like a hangover, you're very thirsty. So Marmite is full of it. These Doritos that, you eat one, you can hang glide around the room. Before you know it, you've finished a whole family bag. Because you can't stop. The brain is very, very receptive to it. So what you have to do, it's very, very simple, is if you go into any shop, actually I drove down here, and it's wonderful because there's loads of fruits and vegetables outside in the shops. And if you can't afford to buy organic, there are the clean 15 and the dirty dozen. So if you stick to, your thick-skinned foods, oranges, lemons, bananas, well, bananas are herb, but And if not, wash everything in bicarb. It's not going to be as nutrient dense, but you can get away with that. But your foods like your grapes and your berries, you shouldn't be eating those if they're not organic. They're full of pesticides. And all your beans, pulses and lentils, you should be soaking them for 12 hours, then tip the water out, sprout them for another 12 hours, then cook them. Eat a little bit of sauerkraut to mitigate the glyphosate. But if you go into your supermarket, the first 2 aisles are basically the only 2 aisles, well, depending on which side you go in. Waitrose put all their chocolate out on the street bit, and then the car park end is where you'll get your fruit and veg. So if you go in those first 2 aisles, if it looks like you've pulled it out of the ground, off a bush or out of a tree, or you've just slaughtered it, you can eat it. But you tell me where a box of cornflakes grows. Or tell me where, a packet of waffles grows. It doesn't, does it? And they're all the foods that are making you sick, that are going to guarantee that you end up in the British healthcare system, in the hospitals or the scare homes, and you're going to end up on NG, what is now, it was NG 163, then it was NG 191. You're going to be given that same protocol, which is algorithmic medicine. They have no intention of letting you collect your pension at all. They have every intention of making sure that you die very quickly once you've worked and paid into the system. But you don't need to. By making all the changes now, just simple changes. I don't mean everybody going in tomorrow morning under the sink going, get out, it's all poison, throwing everything away, and going through the food cupboards like the food police. But you can make small changes. Instead of buying that bread, don't buy it. Buy some spelt flour, make some bread. I make all my own bread. I eat it if I have a visitor once a month because it makes me fat. Eat potatoes, rice, vegetables, salad, fruit. Your nuts should only be the amount that you can hold in the palm of your hand. That's a portion, not a massive bag of cashews all at once, which is what we do. And tea and coffee. If you're drinking coffee, you're stimulating your adrenal glands, which then works like a seesaw with your thyroid. It pushes your thyroid function down. So limit your coffee. I myself drink chicory root. I just have 1 cup in the morning. And I have honey, I don't have sugar. And I actually, for me personally, I have nut milk. There's nothing wrong with milk. You can get raw milk, and actually you can. You don't need pasteurised. I think we're going to have a break, and then we can do questions, and I'll be watching what everyone's eating.
No.
I hope that kind of, was that, what you were looking for? There's no reason. There's no reason why everyone in here can't, at the same weight as when I left school. There's no reason why everyone in here, if I come again in 6 to 8 months, they can't be back, back being slim, without all their joint pains, with their type 2 diabetes gone, their memory is much better. There's no reason why all of you shouldn't be weaned off your drugs, with the exception, obviously, of type 1 diabetes, but even that, you can cut right down the amount of insulin that you need so you don't get all the diseases that go with it by managing your diet. And you can all contact me, because I do consults and I do programs at naturalnurse@mail.com. And that's what I do for a job. It's my passion. I work with you, as opposed to the idolatry of the doctor. I work with you because my ultimate goal is always to get you to the point where you become health ministers for your families, then you go and tell everyone else what to do.
Can you just give that again?
Natural nurse, because I look natural. Natural nurse @mail.com. And please bear with me because I get a lot. naturalnurse@mail.com. Coming out to eat that food.
So ladies and gentlemen, she's gonna take a bit of a break. And as I spoke before, I think we need to understand the wider implications of the political agenda at hand today. And one of the major aspects that we faced in the last couple of years was not only that they put restrictions on us in terms of lockdown, but they also made impossible for you to have a political opinion, to protest. And the legal infrastructure which is being brought in this country, we need to be very careful. And you need to understand what we are looking at in terms of the legal and political structure in this country under Rishi Sunak, Priti Patel, Suella Braverman. We are looking at the caste system. Caste system is being pushed onto you systematically. Caste system is a perfect form of slavery. South Asia has been struggling from the caste system and the slavery of the caste system for thousands of years. Once this system is institutionalized, let me make it absolutely clear, without a violent revolution, you can never get rid of the caste system. So when Piers Corbyn talks about the caste system, or Kate Shemirani talks about the caste system, you need to understand you are facing an onslaught of the caste system. Don't see Rishi Sunak as a symbolic gesture of coloured individual becoming a prime minister. Rather, see the political ideology he's pushing. And that's why we'll have Rihanna Ali. She's working on human rights. She's a human rights activist. And the situation we are facing in terms of how a legal infrastructure is deliberately being created to curtail political protests. So I would like to invite Rihanna Ali to update on the situation regarding political protests in this country. Thank you very much.
Okay, Okay, first of all, I would like to say good evening to everybody, and I can see that maybe I was thinking we are going to have a break first, and then I will say something, but it seems like I'm going to be saying a few things. I'll try to keep it simple, but there are a few things I have to cover. First of all, I would like to actually ask you a question, and then we will start. My question is actually going to be, do we all understand what is Hindutva? Do we know what it is? Hindutva. That is something that our society is facing at the moment. There is a difference between Hindutva and Hinduism, because some people think it's the same thing, but it's not the same thing. So Hinduism is something like a faith, like BTK Hindu people. So it's a simple way of life. But when we talk about Hindutva, yes?
Hindutva.
Hindutva. What it means is, okay.
We'll have questions afterwards, so let us speak.
Okay, I'm actually going to explain to you what it means actually. It actually means it's a pure Hindu, basically, in simple words. So they are confusing the actually society, the world, and especially what is happening, they are confusing the Hindu people. They are actually promoting the Hindu people that if you want to become a pure Hindu, you have to be part of us. So what we see in India at the moment, that a lot of minorities are struggling there, especially we actually see Muslims struggling. And if we all remember, a few months ago, last year, in Leicester, they actually were up like a few rights, and they were done under the Hindutva ideology. So what is Hindutva ideology? A few minutes before, my colleague Gugulchan, he was talking about caste system. So Hindutva lives on caste system. So this is what it does. So what it wants to do is, it actually wants to keep this caste system alive and class system at the same time. So that is the only way it actually lives. Now I'm going to because I've made a few points to actually make it easy for you, because I could actually talk ages and ages on it, so I didn't want to take too much of your time. So first of all, oops, 1 second. Okay, first of all, I would like to say that we believe no faith promotes extremism. Now this Hindutva is promoting extremism. Extremism is a form of hate crime which is operating in UK, approaching London too, under the Hindutva influence or ideology. If we remember, a few months ago, Hindutva claimed, the Hindutva supporters claimed that they are going to be having a march in London as well. The same situation which happened in Leicester, will be taking place in London as well. So this is something very, very serious that we need to actually understand. And all the draconian laws which have been introduced in London, in UK at the moment, which we see like anti-protest bill, they are actually connected, because these kind of laws have been introduced in India and they have been there for a long time. And India has a set of anti-terrorism laws, and it has a set of laws which are invalid, which are illegal, and many of the laws are outdated. They are those laws from the time of the English people when they were ruling India as well. So what has been happening that some of our ministers and some of our politicians, what they are doing is they are trying to impose some parts of the law here. Like basically they are introducing it. So one of them is actually going to be the anti-protest bill as well. Now, anti-protest bill, how is it working? It's actually working under the Public Order Act bill, which has been introduced. So under this bill, two things have been done, that the police has been given more authority. First thing is that the police can stop and search you and they can ask you questions. And the second thing is that if there is a protest and they are not happy with the protest due to the reasons, like for example, they actually feel that the traffic is going to be held up, or they feel that there's going to be some interference with the public life, or if they see that there's going to be some riots breaking out, they can stop the protest over there. Now, in England, not in England, in UK, slowly, they are going to make it strict. But at the moment, it's quite light. Now, we all understand, since this time of COVID, many things have changed. We have seen a lot of protests happening in the world, especially in Europe. And those protests have become actually violent as well. And even in UK, if you do remember, like a time of COVID time, there actually was one or two protests which were actually quite violent. You can see that so much happened. So since that time, they've been working to control things. Now, this COVID situation has actually opened the door to a lot of things, and a lot of things have been changed, not only in UK, even in Europe as well. Now, I would like to remind that under the Universal Declaration of Article 1, which actually says all humans are born free and equal in dignity and rights. And then if you go to Article 19, which talks about freedom of expression. Now, under these laws, there is no way that UK can actually try to ban any kind of protest here. And then UK's own actually a law, like International Human Rights Act 1998. So under that act, under Article 10, which talks about freedom of expression, and Article 11, which actually talks about free assembly and association. So basically, if England is going to be doing this, if they are going to try, if UK is going to try to ban this protest bill, so it's going to be violating its own laws actually. And then being one of the 5th permanent countries of the United Nations, of the Security Council, I don't think it's a good idea that UK should do it. And the reason why I'm giving you these examples, I don't want to go into detail because I understand that you're not lawyers, but you need to know some information to be able to stand up for your rights. So it's very important. So what Priti Patel did is, at the time of her, when she was the Home Secretary, she tried to introduce some of these Indian laws over here as well, so they can control the minds and the rights. So this is something that like not many people liked, and we were quite lucky that she didn't stay for long. So it's very important that we understand our rights and we actually unite. Now, I'm actually going to be going back to Hindutva because these things are quite linked up. And something I would like to tell you, something so surprise when I go at the bottom. Okay. So what I said was that we believe that no faith promotes extremism. Extremism is a form of hate crime which is spreading in UK, approaching London too, under the Hindutva influence and ideology in connection to HSS, UK-based wing of RSS. RSS is a wing in India which works under the Hindutva, and in UK it has been under the name of HSS since 1960s. So what this wing does is they actually collect funds and they give training to people, and they send people from here who actually believe in Hindutva. They go to India, they have training, they come back here and they go to different parts of the world, and then they speak about yoga and they talk about other things, and they are creating funds, and these funds are used for young children there. So they are brainwashing young children. If you have actually seen the documentary, the BBC documentary on Modi, he has said in clear words that he became a part of the Hindutva as a child. So what they do is they are recruiting little children, they are playing with their minds, and they are actually teaching them that the only faith which should be allowed in the world and even India is Hinduism. Now the funniest thing which I would like to share with you is that the father of Hindutva, who created Hindutva in 1922, he was not a Hindu himself. He was an atheist. So what he's been doing, he's been using Hinduism as a shield for himself. He's been giving Hinduism a bad name. So basically, Hindus should reject it because he's using it to actually control their feelings, manipulate their minds, and by manipulating their minds, he is making them manipulate the minority. So in India, we see a lot of minority suffering, and the reason is actually because of Hindutva. So what I think is that in this country, I know a lot of Indian people, especially Hindus. When I talk with them, they don't understand what Hindutva is. They don't have a clue. So what Hindutva is trying to do is trying to do the same thing over here. So it's very important that we stand by our Hindu community and we support them and we make sure that they don't get misguided. If we stand by them, that's the only way we can save them from getting misguided and from this Hindutva to be spreading. Because if we don't stand by them, this Hindutva is going to be spreading in our society here, trying to do the same by manipulating the minorities and the harmony which we have been working from so many decades. It took a long time for the British society to actually stand up with all the other minorities. And I believe 150 languages are spoken in UK. And how is it possible that we all stay in peace? Because we understand each other, we respect each other. Nobody thinks that they are better than anyone. But this Hindutva thing is making people feel that they have to be part of Hindutva. As I said earlier, even the Hindus are being manipulated, brainwashed, that they can't be a pure Hindu till they don't believe in Hindutva. So this is something very important I wanted to share. And there are a few other points I will actually share with you. Yes, so if we, 1 second. Yes, Hindutva is Nazism, so it's very easy to understand. If you all remember Nazism, how did Nazism spread? Germany wanted to expand, and Germany wanted to make sure that the Jews are no more here. So in the same way, Hindutva is Nazism, so it wants to expand. It actually wants to take over the South Asian countries, and slowly it wants to take over the whole world. And then it actually wants to make sure that there's only one faith left, which is Hindus. And to be honest, as I said earlier, that the father of Hindutva, he wasn't a Hindu himself. In his book in 1923, he wrote down that the Hindus need to be very much aware of the Muslims and Christians. So these were the two minorities that they were actually worried about. Yes, and now I'm going to the BBC documentary. So the BBC documentary has exposed India as Hindutva after 2 decades. Although it took a long time, but it has exposed it well. Now India is turning Indians against the British because the information of the BBC was passed on by the British Home Affairs Office. Yesterday, now there's something very interesting I was saying earlier. Yesterday, Gujarat is the same place where the massacres happened with the Muslims in 2002, which we all heard in the documentary. Now yesterday, Gujarat Assembly passed a resolution and the Home Minister of Gujarat said that it's an attack. What BBC documentaries are claiming is not attack on the Modi, it's an attack on each Indian. Can you see the words? So they are trying to actually make sure that every single Indian is actually turned against the British, especially like the BBC. And we all know that the BBC offices in India, like in Delhi and in Mumbai and in other cities, are not safe. One of the journalists was attacked badly. I don't know if you know about this. So that assembly is asking the government to pass this resolution so they can speak to the British government and they can make sure that these claims about BBC can be taken away, and it's making sure that every single Indian is turned against Britain. And there's one other reason that maybe you all know, that Indian elections are just around the corner. Now because the elections are there, so they are going to try every single trick in the book that they can turn around everything and make sure that Hindutva is actually protected. So it's very important that we understand the difference between Hindutva and the difference between Hinduism, because Hindutva is not Hinduism, and as I said earlier, that we need to stand by our Hindu community so that we can save them from getting misguided. Otherwise, this culture of our, this society of our is going to be suffering, same like India. Now, going back to the public order bill, which is actually linked to Hindutva as well. So I think one reason why this bill was passed in October last year was the incidents which took place in Leicester. And then at the same time, there's a lot of strikes happening. Now, as I said earlier, that Britain can't actually do this. They can't actually make sure that they ban the protest, but we need to stand united. I was thinking that under the new leadership of Asian, things are going to be different, because he's going to be understanding, and because he's himself from South Asia, he understands how important it is freedom of expression. But what I see is that nothing is actually being done. Doesn't seem like, to be honest, that he is understanding much that what is coming and what is happening. So I would just say that may God help us all. So the only thing we can do is, if we stand together, we understand our rights, that under the Universal Declaration what our rights are, and under the Human Rights Act 1998, which is UK, we actually know our rights are, and we can stand by them. But once again, they are trying to make it very difficult. They are trying to make it very, very strict with the anti-protest bill as well. So we need to be very careful, and when they are giving punishments, they're starting from minimum of 6 months. And they can go up to, I believe, 3 years. So it depends on the thing you have done. For example, like if you stop the traffic or something, I think it could be a 1-year punishment. And it's going to have a limited fine, or you could even end up having both. You could be punished and you could have a fine at the same time. So this is something I wanted to say, and I think I covered everything. But if I feel anything, I will let you know. If you have any questions, please ask me.
Just to clarify a couple of things, when we talk about Hindutva is a political ideology. Political ideology which our entire current cabinet adheres to. That's including the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, the ex-Home Minister, and a number of people within that cabinet. And this is a political ideology which has become so dominant to a degree that the Conservative Party actually holds its weekly meetings within the Indian High Commission and directly takes order. That's 1922 so-called committee which runs the Conservative Party. So when Ariana is talking about Hindutva, she is talking about this political ideology and how much of a grip it's beginning to have on the Western world. And I can expand on that. Look at the Silicon Valley, look at the YouTube's CEO, look at the CEO of Google, look at Microsoft. They are all linked to this political ideology. And not only that, you just have to look at Kamala Harris. Yeah, she's linked to that political ideology. So this, we really have to think about what we are facing. We are facing a political ideology which worships the caste system, and it wants to force that caste system onto you. So you need to be, the reason you need to understand to differentiate a faith from a political ideology is because they're going to weaponize that faith and they're going to tell you that you are anti-Hindu. But this problem is a political problem in nature, and we are facing a political ideology. And the comparison between Nazism and Hindutva, in reality, Hitler was actually inspired by the Aryan philosophy, and that comes into the caste system. So in a sense, Hitler took his ideas from the caste system rather than the other way around. So when Hitler spoke about the Aryan race, we need to understand what he spoke about is a unique, superior, God-like race, not white people. This is something, a misconception which has been deliberately sold to you. This idea of blonde hair and blue-eyed nonsense. The reality, what Hitler wanted to create was gods among humans. And they wanted to wipe out the human race and create a new superior race. And that's what they were looking at when they were starting the breeding experiments, genetic manipulation. That's what they were looking at. The reason these ideas of European supremacy and white supremacy were deliberately added was to introduce this new political control that we are seeing all around us. Any political activism today would be labeled under the guise of racism. And these are the challenges which we will face. They will weaponize the political spectrum against the truth. And you need idealistic capability of confronting them with both politics and ideas. And Piers, you want to speak now, or shall we?
Well, I don't know.
Food is more or less ready. So you want to have 5 minutes, and then we can hit the.
What do you want to do?
Let's have a break then.
All right, have a break.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have a break. So the food is ready. So we'll have questions and everything else afterwards. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Very much like that. So, should we go find actual? Let's go find actual. Guys, you alright? How you doing, brother? You good? Yeah, you alright? Yeah. Let's go go outside. You alright, darling? How are you? Alright, you good, man? You good? You alright? You alright, darling? How are you? You alright? You good? You good, man? You alright? You good, brother? Yeah, cool, man. Asher was probably in the kitchen. He goes, no, I can make food better. Oh my God, they're straight over there. All the white people are straight over there at the food. You alright? What are you doing? What? What are you doing? Why are you just randomly standing outside my van?
Did you finish?
No, they're having food, King. Have some food.
You like
People were asking where you were.
so I was sleeping around it. I'm actually coverage, right? So I miss everything. I come to Southall. I'm actually go home. I'm actually quite upset.
No, it's still going on. No, you don't. It's still going on. They're literally serving food now. Then Piers is going to have his.
Alright.
Then Piers is going to have his thing. Why don't you just go
Who's
in?
that woman talking?
What?
Who's that other woman talking?
Oh, woman. I don't know. She's saying she was talking about Hinduism.
Huh?
She was talking about Hinduism, but I thought she was. I thought she was Muslim. Though.
What about it? What did she say?
I don't know. Stuff that you would probably understand, but I don't know. But I assumed she was Muslim because she had the hijab, but I don't know. I was like, I don't know what's going on. But yeah, is anyone in it? Cool. That's my van, guys. There you go. Cool.
That girl here.
There's many girls here.
Huh?
There's many girls here. What one? But turn it off. There we go. Anyway, we go in. You want to do part two? Part two of the live stream?
Well, you don't want to do it.
No, got no issue. It's about 50 people watching at once. Sure, you can get more than that. You can probably get more. But yeah, everyone's literally, the food's just starting to serve now.
There was food already there.
What do you mean there's food already there?
Just people eating.
Oh, are they? Maybe the people who got there early. I don't know. Maybe we missed out the appetizer. Remember before they gave out like the Bombay mix? Remember like the Bombay mix stuff? Maybe it's that. But now I think the actual food's there. Well, I say actual food. I mean like the main course. But yeah, so Kate's spoken, that Hindu/Muslim woman, and Piers is going to speak later, and Gutcharan. So why don't you just start a live stream? Yeah? Go in, yeah. Right. Let's go in. Right. I'll see you inside, yeah? My house with them. Some people bring their kids with them, some people bring their dogs. I bring my van. Yeah.
This man travels around the UK, not international.
No, not international.
Dublin.
Just around the UK. Yeah.
Well, by the way, I've got my videos back on my YouTube.
That's good.
That's good.
Right, let me just put this live stream back out here, and I'll just do that. Right, yeah. Hold on, mate. Right, give me 1 second. I'm gonna get. I might as well just go and get some food, guys. I might actually. Everyone's kind of queuing up for the food now, so let me just. I'll tell you what, guys. Put the camera in. Maybe Suraj will start a live stream, but for now, I'll just do that. You alright?
Hello.
How you doing? Good?
You're right.
How are you? Come on. Good?
Yeah, good.
Oh, cool. We put this live stream now, and I'll do this.
If we should win in Palestine, then it will be a big debt to the whole of the world.
I got my van. Yep.
We have to be clear about
Right.
self-determination.
Right, guys. I'm gonna just leave this here. And I might, because Actual was a bit cranky. He's got up, so hopefully we'll do a live stream instead. Right, see you in a minute.
Hello.
Hello, you alright? How you doing, darling? Good? Yeah?
Not going any food?
I'm gonna go now. How are you? Good? Yeah, you alright? Good? Yeah, good man, good.
Close.
Sorry?
You live in the area?
No. I live everywhere. I live
Yeah, because you're everywhere.
I live everywhere. Yeah, that's where I live. Everywhere and nowhere.
How's it all
my
going?
life. Yeah.
Are you into politics this year?
Well, politics? No, I don't dabble in politics anymore. Piers does, obviously, and funny enough, there's someone talking Reform Party on my stream just now. So, yeah, but no, I personally don't get it. I don't believe in voting anymore.
Yeah.
I think you've got to vote with your money and just stop paying taxes and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're going on speak tomorrow about taxes.
Yeah.
Are you on that? Are you coming?
Is that to do with the 15-minute neighbourhoods and
No,
stuff
this
like
is
that? Oh,
just
no.
teaching about not paying taxes.
No, what I'm doing is I'm going to, so do you know Eileen? Irish lady?
Yeah.
She's got an event on tomorrow.
Oh, what's that?
Adam Middle's
What's she?
about the 15-minute neighbourhoods and
Okay,
LTNs, and like new ladies and stuff like that. So I'll be going to that probably. I said I would.
Yeah.
So that's my plan. Yeah. When you
we're in Ealing.
Yeah.
It's like Dick thing.
Yeah, I was there for that. Yeah, I filmed some of that.
You actually get in.
I didn't get in. I wouldn't want to go in. Well, it was actually surprisingly good. Yeah, it was quite. I saw it. It was surprisingly good. Yeah.
And I don't know how to go in because they're all the good. They're also actually quite good.
Yeah. Well, it was quite spicy outside as well. A lot of people were getting a bit aggro. Yeah.
We have the.
It's quite funny.
Yeah, there will be always in schools, and they are
It's quite funny with that. What a clown world we live in. You need Wi-Fi here. Wi-Fi? I'm just using my data. I get something with that.
It's rice.
You get food, sorry?
Well, just have chili, which is really